Good afternoon. My name is Phil Hewitt, Group Arts Editor for Sussex Newspapers. Lovely to be speaking again to Paul Zerdin. And Paul, you've had a fabulous past couple of years coming through the pandemic and out the other side. And you're heading back to Worthing September the 8th for a show which taxes you a little bit more. This is you taking things one step more. What are you doing with this one that's new for you?
What am I doing? Well, I'm doing my stand-up comedy and my puppetry and my ventriloquism. But there's a bit more. I'm trying to use the technology, the animatronic side of things. I try and use it I use it sparingly because I just think, there's nothing better than just standing on stage with your hand up the backside of a puppet, doing gags and routines and the audience laughing. It's just actually quite simple when you think about it. And I've done that for a long time. And so a few years ago, I started using animatronics and, your puppet could be moving at the same time as another puppet moving, and I can still operate them, control them. But my hands are free to do other things and I can still voice them. And then I started thinking about how else you could do that. And on the last tour, I did a crossword routine where there are three puppets talking virtually at the same time with me. And it's a misunderstanding. And it was inspired by a famous Abbott and Costello routine, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know, is on third, and it's all wordplay. And my friend Ian Sainsbury wrote the routine with me, and it's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. But I was using technology, so I had Sam on my hand, I had Albert, my old man character, on his mobility scooter. He was animatronic, and I had the baby who was in his high chair. He was also animatronic, but I was controlling them all and puppeteering Sam at the same time as doing all the dialogue. And that was probably the routine took me a month to learn. That's the longest it's taken me.
That sounds fantastic. But good job you're controlling them. They're not yet at the point of controlling you then.
Not yet, no, but I mean, I'm sure that's not far away. But there's more of that in this show, but we're doing magic as well. So
magic,
I thought,
yeah, and that's how you started, you were saying.
Definitely. And I thought, how can a puppet do magic and me be able to puppeteer? So if a puppet's in an illusion, how do I get the puppet to talk whilst I'm sawing him in half? And so animatronics solves that problem. So I'm using them where I need to use it, and so that's really fun. And I think because I did a bit of that on the last tour, I've come back with it all kind of a bit bigger, and I want to try and push it and see how far I can go with it.
It sounds fantastic. And as we were saying, you really are living the dream, aren't you? Playing with puppets, playing with magic.
I grew up
ever to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up playing with dolls. So I was given Sesame Street characters as a kid for birthdays and Christmas presents, and I had all of them. I had, Grover, Cookie Monster, Ernie, and Bert, and Kermit, and and I'm still doing the same thing now. But I think that I just knew I wanted to do something. Excuse me. And it was encouraged as well. I was very fortunate to have a very, warm, loving family, and that really, my parents really encouraged us being silly and showing off and dressing up, and they both trained as actors, so it was kind of in the blood, really. They both went into, my father trained at RADA with Roger Moore, and my mum also went to drama school, and then they both went into the BBC and worked in radio and television. So my sister and I grew up in and out of television and radio studios, and so I knew that I loved that world, and I found it fascinating.
So that world was in your blood.
Yeah, and it was encouraged. So I was lucky, because I know some people who I work with in the business who don't come from a show business background at all,
yeah.
And father's a plumber, the mother's works in social care or whatever it is, and then they suddenly become the most incredible dancer or the most incredible singer, or but I definitely think it helps if it is encouraged when you're growing up.
And now the encouraging that you need to do is to get people to come out. You're saying that we're probably not quite yet over the pandemic, truly, in terms of just going out, basically.
Yeah, and I think also there's so much, people are spoiled for choice. There's so much to see now, because we had that, 2 years really where things weren't normal and you couldn't really go out and see shows, or you didn't know if the show was going to happen if you did book for it, because it might then get cancelled, or it was a very uncertain time. So now everybody's out touring, and we're all after the same venues around the country. And I'm lucky that I've got a lovely big tour ahead of me, and and we've got all the venues that I wanted to go to. That we couldn't get into everywhere because they're booked up. They're booked up so far ahead this time.
Is that partly the backlog then? Is there still a
So
backlog?
absolutely, yeah, pandemic backlog for sure. But people are. I think people are getting back to normal and coming out. I don't think I don't think they have been coming out as much as they used to, but I think that's coming back. I think it's coming back.
And all you can do is just keep plugging away, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, and keep coming back with a new show.
With your dolls and your magic.
My dolls and my magic and my new jokes.
Fantastic. Brilliant. We're really lovely to speak to you again, Paul. Lovely to hear you're back on the road and you've got that date in Worthing on September the 8th. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you.